Let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation. Yeah. Let's have a conversation. Oh, yeah. Look. Yeah. Hey. Let's have a conversation. Woo. Pick up some gems, life is all you make. Go. We keep it real, we don't talk to fake. Tell them hottest talk show on the net, coming for all the mates. Let's have a conversation. Woo. Pick up some gems, life is all you make. Go. We keep it real, we don't talk to fake. Tell them hottest talk show on the net, coming for all the mates. Let's have a conversation. Yeah. Let's have a conversation.
Hello, everyone. This is Michelle Biggs, CEO of My Best Everyday Coaching and Consulting, and the host of the video podcast, Real Conversations with Michelle. Thank you for joining episode 2 of my career series. This episode is about starting a business. And I know for some, it could be a very heart-wrenching thing to step into, just not knowing what to do. And I have some guests who are joining me to provide some inspiration to you. We'll talk about what inspired us to start a business. We'll provide you with some of our lessons learned, as well as provide you with some tips. But let me talk a little bit about myself, because I know some of you might be new to my platform. So I am a master certified life coach, as well as an associate certified coach through the International Coaching Federation. I am a retired 37-year senior HR professional. Worked in both the investment banking industry as well as the pharmaceutical industries. And I decided to start this podcast. I did it during the pandemic as a way to give back, y'all. We were all at home, and I know I was bored. I was trying to figure out, how can I give back and support people? And this podcast has been a way for me to do that in a different way. I talk about a variety of life topics with the goal that something shared you'll be able to apply in a positive manner for yourself or in support of someone else. So, as I said, tonight, it's about how to start a business. So I have joining me 2 fabulous guests, and I'm going to have them come on one at a time. First up, Miss Tiffany Bargeman. Hey, Tiffany.
Hello.
Hello. So why don't you tell people about yourself, talk about your company, and how long you've been in business?
Okay, Tiffany Bargeman. I am a Raleigh native, and I have a business called Friendpreneurship, LLC. This is a new business that pretty much was birthed out of a previous business, which started in 2022, January. So Friendpreneurship was an evolution of a business I started in social media management called Grand Concierge in January of last year. But over time, in about 10 months' time, there was some new activities that I was doing with social media management involving interviewing and talking to entrepreneurs about their why. And Friendpreneurship came from that. So eventually I started some training to get more information about running a business. And now Friendpreneurship, as of May 16th this year, is born. So we're operating monthly and doing what we do. We can talk more about it.
And we'll definitely talk more about it, because I love your service that you provide to fellow entrepreneurs. So get a chance for you to talk about that. Next up is Miss Sandra Hardy. Hello, Sandra. And y'all, I'm just checking to make sure all the social media platforms are working. So go ahead, Sandra. Why don't you talk about yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Sandra Hardy. My company is Bootz to Heelz, LLC. I am out of Raleigh, North Carolina. My company is a coaching and consulting business. So I do coaching and consulting because can't just say coaching, because coaching mostly says, I'm going to let you take your knowledge and lead you to a certain place. But there are certain things that if you don't know, you need to be consulting. You need to be led to. So that's where the consulting is. The company started in 2008, but it was started out as a personal branding business. And in 2017, I got my LLC, and more pieces fell into place through 2008 through 2017, which we'll talk about when we talk about the journey. But what I do is I'm a business strategist, as well as an emotional intelligence executive coach. And what I do is I work with small to medium business owners, and high achieving leaders in the corporate world. I work with the small business owners in order to help them to grow and to maximize their business profits. And I work with high achieving leaders to help them to better blend with their teams, as well as in order to really maximize the productivity of their organization.
Thank you, Sandra. And I guess I should talk a little bit about what I do as well, right? Since I'm going to join in this conversation. And like you, it's coaching and consulting, because as you said, Sandra, everything is not about coaching. There's some times to provide some advice and some guidance around some things. But my focus has been career and executive coaching, as well as leadership coaching. And my passion is really for helping women and people of color exceed and excel in the spaces in which they work. So that has really been my passion, and it's evolved. Like you guys said, all of us have evolved, and that's the beauty of this conversation, because a lot of times people start off thinking, well, this is what I'm going to do, and what you find over time, you may evolve, right? So let's talk about what inspired you to start your business in the first place, and how long did it take for you to launch? So Sandra, why don't you go first?
Okay. So I tell everybody my business was actually birthed in 2003, when my life took a turn for the worse, and I had already a heavy and chaotic time. So I was on active duty and I was preparing soldiers to go to war when I received a call that changed my life forever. And it was the Red Cross, and they would let me know that my mother had a massive stroke. So at that point in my life, at that very point, I became an instant caregiver, but I also became non-deployable, because as a single child, I now took on that responsibility of my mother. And in the military, if there's no one that you can leave a dependent with, now you're non-deployable. So non-deployable meant that I was going to be put off active duty, which eventually happened, which meant my all at once, my life just changed. I know one time we spoke about the fact of thinking about being an entrepreneurship. At that point, before that point, I never thought about becoming an entrepreneur. My focus was on, I'm going to get 30 years. I'm going to do this. I'm going to retire here. But all at once, my life just changed. And I went through a lot of different emotions. I went through depression. I went through frustration. I went through anger. I went through just an uncertainty, and I felt really, really powerless, because of the fact that at a time when I should be thinking about how I was going to take care of my mother, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to provide for my mother and my son, because I was a single parent as well. And so during that time, not only did I birth all of these emotions, but I also got angry. Angry at the fact that someone controlled enough of my life to where I didn't know how I was going to provide for my family. So at that point is when I started thinking, you know what, I need to figure a way on where I can be powerful, that I can, no matter what happens, there's a means and a way for me to be able to provide for my family. And so that's when the conception of my company started, that journey. And then so 2003, and then actually standing up and being able to say, okay, this is what I'm doing, was that 5-year gap in between. And that 5-year gap in between of, really figuring out what is this I'm going to do? What are my talents? What am I going to be able to turn into a business? And then just trying to figure out how I'm going to provide in the meantime for my family. So there was a whole lot going on during that time, but that was where the conception of my company began. And that was the passion that started me, because I was like, you know what? I'm not the only one. That's always my thoughts when I go through something. I'm not the only one that's going through this. How can I make sure that nobody else is in a situation where they've only depended on one income or one thing. And then when that thing goes away, they feel like there's nothing else left.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Tiffany, how about you? What inspired you to start your business and how long did it take for you to launch?
Okay, I'll answer that. I have to know, Sandra, one question. Did you realize that you were taking your power back over your life at the moment you were doing it? Or is that something that was in retrospect when you look back at how you managed that situation?
I knew I was taking back my power because now I'm going to be controlled. No one can take that away from me. So I'm going to be the one to determine how much money I make and when I make it, or if I don't make it, or if I do make it. But yeah, the becoming empowered took some time because, like I said, I went through the depression. I went through the, what am I going to do? So this wasn't a fast, whoa, me, oh, wow, boom. But after
All of it.
what came out of it, right, was this is what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm going to provide for my family.
Yeah.
And there's a lot. And speaking of just starting business, Tiffany, I'll let you, talk in a minute and I'll give my story. But it is, I tell people starting a business is not for the faint at heart. There's a lot of things that go into it. And there's a lot of turns and twists that can happen. Right. And one of the things, whether it's starting a business or starting anything that you do, is really understanding where you have the power. Right. And I talk about that with my clients, is about unleashing your power. Because a lot of times we have self-limiting beliefs, which can, prohibit us from moving forward. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we talk about our lessons learned. So Tiffany, go ahead.
Okay.
What started? How'd you get inspired?
So I was inspired by my parents preparing the way. And I say that because in their passing, 2019, my father passed, 2021, my mother passed, but they thought ahead. They prepared wills and estate plans. They made sure that we knew what was available to us and what we needed to do upon their deaths. So when that happened and we inherited what we did, I said, for this part of my life, since my parents took the time to plan ahead, I want to honor them by using what they left me to start something that's going to create a return on investment and start some they started the generational wealth. I wanted to continue that by not wasting it. And I ventured into starting a business that I believed I would be good at, and that's telling people about good things. That's what I started thinking I was going to be doing. So social media management is where I began. And that business was called Grand Concierge.
Yep,
I did that because I wanted to make sure to reach the broadest audience with good stuff at the same time, so why not social media? That's where everybody is. They're online, all these different ways to get information out online. I just try to take advantage of that. So I knew some things from technology standpoint. I'm, in technology for a while now, more than 20 years as a technologist. And I thought, okay, I'm going to start with what I know. And now I'll hire some people to help me learn what I don't so that they can teach me. And I, in turn, can provide that service for clients. And that went well. Things were going well. We were working and we were learning, but I set aside only a certain amount of money for that venture because I'm a budgeting person. I think long term, and I set aside, I allocated and did what I was supposed to do with that money. And I thought, when this money is gone, hopefully there'll be a return by then. But there was not. And this is where the twists and turns come in. And I thought, well, I did my best. I, grasped at straws. I went out, I networked. I did all the things that people said I should do as a new business owner. Joined the chambers. I was making new contacts all the time. I was promoting, putting myself in different arenas. And it just didn't happen fast enough with the money that I had. So I was prepared to say, I did my best, Mom and Dad. God, thank you for the opportunity. I was going to drink my glass of wine, cry my tears, and go to sleep. But at the right moment, and I'm talking about when the glass was in my hand and the tear was coming out, the phone rang. And it was a friendly entrepreneur who is not afraid to bring others along for success, calling me. And I had reached out to her 3 weeks prior, and she hadn't called me back. I thought, well, that's that. but at the right moment, she called me. And not only to encourage me and say, yes, you can, but to say, here's what you do next.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I needed. So I made my next moves, got into the Launch Rate County program, and Friendpreneurship was born from there.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think when I hear your stories, it gives me such inspiration, because I think a lot of us, the things that we go through, we don't even realize that out of that comes things like starting a business and things like that. And for me, I had just gotten a divorce. And I remember I wanted to go get my certification in life coaching, right? As an HR professional, doing coaching at work. But I thought in my head, life coaching might be a little bit different. So let me understand the principles of life coaching. Get into class. And one of the first questions they were asking is, so what's the name of your business? What are you going to be doing? I'm like, business? I'm not thinking about this as a business. I'm wanting to upskill, right? As a coach. But I sat there and I'm like, why would I not think about a business, right? Not thinking longer term for me, but I think I was telling Sandra last week, or might have been this week, Sandra, that I sat on even launching my LLC for a minute, right? Because for me, again, it was about upskilling. And I did nothing with the business until 2020 during the pandemic. And that was because my accountant said to me, Michelle, you got one more year not to make any money.
And that's it. Then it's a hobby. And then it's a hobby.
So I was like, okay, let me do something. I didn't even have a website, y'all. And I just said, let me just go ahead and start putting out some feelers. And what I didn't realize at that time, and probably in 2021, that's when I decided I was going to retire, because I wanted to retire before I was 60. That was my big thing. And I did. But I said, okay, what am I going to do before I'm able to start collecting Social Security? I was like, I need to do something. So that's when I really started getting serious about the coaching business. And one of my friends helped me initially to set up my website, and the rest is history, right? So again, there's a lot of things that can motivate us to get started. Did you have a passion for what you were doing? Or was it just so Sandra, for you, in terms of starting the business that you started, was it built out of a passion for what you love to do, or was it something else?
Well, what I love to do was help and build up individuals. So even when I was in the military, my thing was, okay, what is it that you want to do? How far do you want to go in your ranking? Okay, well then have you looked at what you got to do? Have you done this? Have you done that? So it was always helping and guiding. So that was what came out
naturally.
Right,
Yeah.
because I was HR, and so looking at have you provided for your family? What have you laid there? Your insurance, your this, but really just telling helping people to see that it's not just I want to do this, but okay, you want to do this, but how do you get there? Have you looked at where you're going to go or what you're going to do? What kind of schooling you need? You want to do this next year? Do you can't move there without having this and that. So yeah, that it was a passion and a knowledge and that I enjoyed to do. So, yeah. And so out of that came my business.
Yeah. Tiffany, how about you? Because you said you started with
Social media management.
concierge service, which is, was that something that you did as part of your day job as well?
Well, it boils down to being an information sharer, because I love telling people about good things. I love being able to have a resource or a piece of information ready for people when they come to me, or having it prepared so that I can offer it to them even before they even know it, that they need it, So I've done that all throughout my career in various positions. But in my personal life, I always love telling people about good things. So
Mhm.
whether I take a trip or taste something great or bought a pair of earrings, shout out to Effie Mae's Jewelry
That's
here.
nice.
Mhm.
I mean, I have to tell somebody because I want them to feel the joy that I feel possessing this thing that has a story behind it. You know, for example, I like to tell this story about my cousin who has a candle business. I didn't even know this part of her story. I just thought she sold candles. But when I learned that she started her business by bringing herself light through making candles for herself, and then decided, I'm going to bring others light. And she was a victim of domestic violence. So that was
Mm.
a period in her life where she was healing and decided, I can share this healing with other people. Now, though I haven't experienced domestic violence, I can feel her experience through that healing candle, right? So whenever I light it and smell it, and I'm a candle lighter, I'm not one that sits them on the shelf and lets them
Right.
just collect dust. I'm gonna burn a candle. I get to experience her story, and it makes me feel better about having spent my money on her candle as opposed to just some candle off a shelf, because the story means something to me and resonates, and I can experience it every time. It's not just the one and done thing.
Yeah.
So my passion is just telling people about good things. I feel like the friendpreneurship aspect came from it because the telling people about good things started as an IG live weekly Friendpreneur Friday chat with entrepreneurs, just talking to them about their why, because I believe people buy why you do what you do, not what you do. And that's a Simon Sinek quote.
Mhm.
I think that story it builds a connection between the service provider, the product creator, and the consumer that is so important. If you're going to have a repeat customer, if you're going to have a loyal following, people need to experience you and your
Yeah.
products and services. So I feel like talking to entrepreneurs about their why gives them a platform to, express that why so people will buy. I
Mhm.
enjoyed it tremendously because some people are
Mhm.
shy. They don't want to talk on camera. They don't know what to say. But I feel like talking with them and drawing that story out of them is so important. And usually by the end of the conversation, they were like, oh, that wasn't so bad. I'm glad I did it. And I feel
Mhm.
like I've done a service by helping them tell that story. So I had to go through a period where Grand Concierge wasn't doing so great, but that Friendpreneur Friday was a light for me.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, I like doing this. This is great. I wonder, can I make this the business instead of doing the social media management? Maybe I can do that. And that's where the transition happened. I thought, okay, I'm leaving the other stuff behind. I'm taking this little baby with me. And then God was showing me throughout that year, you have to make connections. You can't just operate with no business plan. You have to know people. You have to do this and you have to do that. And I had experienced all of that before I understood that this vision God was giving me. Yes, I did create a business and started it off with the money my parents left because that's what I thought I should do. And it's a good thing. But He was showing me, this is how I want you to do it.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
did it my way, the way I thought, trial and
Yeah.
error
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
months. And He
Yes.
said, now you know this doesn't work, but here you are. And now this is what I want you to do. So a vision became clear in all
Yeah.
of that trial and
Right.
error. So now I get to help others. So the business is a business support service that connects entrepreneurs through targeted networking and live storytelling events.
Yeah. I
And
was
that
going
way
to
we
tell
can
you, you
learn
just
from each
felt,
other.
look, we were having a telepathic moment because I was about to ask you that question. Tell
Yeah.
people what you do.
Hmm.
So thank you for saying that. Yeah. So you're
Yeah.
connecting
Yeah.
entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Yes, for live storytelling, so we can get those stories out and also learn from each other, because there are people in different stages of entrepreneurship. At any given moment, when you talk to anyone on the street that is a business owner, they're at a different stage that you're in. You have something to share with them that they may not know, vice versa. If we
Mhm.
get people together on a regular basis who are at those different stages, they can pour into each other. They can receive from one another. And we are not crabs in a barrel. We are
Right.
not we're not competing, we are collaborating. And if we do that, we can get to our destinations and accomplish our goals, not necessarily faster, but in better condition. And
Yeah.
it's because of
And I
friendpreneurship that we can do
Yeah,
that.
and I love that about what you're doing. And I don't know if you guys have experience, and we'll talk a little bit about what we've experienced after I share a little bit about how I got started. But being able to be a support to one another, and I don't know if I felt that directly when I started my business. I mean, there were some people that were close to me who I felt comfortable talking to, but I also had some people who were a little shy about sharing what they were doing. And I was like, look, I'm just trying to learn from you, right? Trying to, give me some wisdom and tips because you're someone that I admire. I wouldn't talk to you if you weren't
Right.
someone that I admired, right?
Mhm.
So, but for me, when I started, like I said, my whole mindset was really around helping women who have gone through transition. That's
Mhm.
really where my head was. And then I remember speaking to someone who I consider a mentor to me. And she's like, Michelle, you have 37 years of HR experience. Why would you not leverage that as part of your business? Right. And I said to myself, and I tell you guys, that's what I am doing. That's what people are coming to me for. So I'm like, look, I know I start, and I still do life coaching. I still do the transitional stuff and helping women prioritize and things like that. So that's not something I don't do. But
Mhm.
the far majority of what I do and where my credibility lies is my 37 years of HR experience. And quite frankly, that's what I love. I love the
Mhm.
coaching. I love career coaching, leadership development. That's what I love. And I know that's what I'm good at. So that has been a blessing. That has been truly a blessing for me. And what inspired me, like you, Tiffany, kind of took a little bit of a shift because I'm like, okay, Michelle, why are you doing what you're doing? And even from a marketing standpoint, right? Being able to showcase my credibility through things that I know I'm good at. Right. So that's something, and kind of get into a little bit of that in terms of lessons learned. But what were some of the steps you took to get prepared for launch? You guys. So Tiffany, I'll have you start first.
Okay, so for launch program or
Yeah.
launching my business.
Launching your business. Yeah.
Okay, so when I talked to that friendpreneur, that original friendpreneur, when she said, "This is what I did, and I think you can too." She was a part of the Launch Wake County program in Knightdale. She went through that cohort. She actually was the winner of that 2022 cohort, and she had opened her store and she was operating. So she had the experience to pass along to me and say, apply. The deadlines are here. The website is there. Apply. Know this about it. Prepare this way. And when you go through that program, here's what to expect. So I actually did apply for the Launch Raleigh program, and I did not get accepted. It's very competitive. There are, I
Mhm.
think, 20 people or fewer that are
Wow.
accepted, and maybe 100 plus applications that come in. So it's very competitive, and I was disappointed that I did not get into that program, but there was a reason, and it's hindsight, but it's helped me. It's helped me to trust God more, even though we don't know the big picture.
Right.
He
Mm.
does, and he gives us bits
Amen.
and pieces. And if we're watching, we can see as we go along how he is answering prayers and putting things in order. But sometimes that flesh and the frustration and the blindness that we have because we want what we want when we want it brings us to a place of doubt.
Mhm.
So after I was, I won't say rejected, I would say there's another word I want to use, but it'll come to me later. I was not rejected, but that opportunity was not mine. God opened another door. I didn't give up after Launch Raleigh. I continued on and applied for Launch Knightdale the next season, and I was accepted. And it
Okay.
turned out that those people in that program were
Mm.
my people. Launch
Mm.
Raleigh programs, that was not my people. I learned
Right.
it later,
Yeah.
and he shows it to me more and more. Why? So I'm glad that it worked out the way it did. And I went through with the best teacher. I went through with the best classmates. I came out of an experience that grew me as a person and not just a business plan writer. I came out with so much more than I think I would have gotten from the other program. So I'm
Mhm.
grateful. I
Yeah.
launched it through Launch Night.
Okay.
Nice.
Thank you. Sandra, how about you?
Well, Michelle, I'm not even going to lie and say I had a formal launching. What my experience was was, as I said, okay, I need to be able to start a business. Boom. I've seen my father my whole life he's been an entrepreneur. He's always had his own business. So looking from the outside in, hey, I just need to say that this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm going to go, and then I'm headed on towards it. And it was a lot of trials. It was a lot of learning curves that came about. Just kind of jumping in somebody's free this or somebody's free that, and listen to the conversations of others that are speaking, and then saying, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know that. And then jumping in there and doing that. Oh, I didn't know that. And jumping in and doing that. To really grasp the fact of, oh, okay, this is how this is done. And then getting, once income and everything was getting formed, and I'm actually creating some profit, some money, then going and getting some coaching to help gear me the rest of the way and being able to pay for that. But a lot of trial and error was my launch.
Yeah.
Because one, my mind was, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I need to do. And okay, I'm going for it. And it does, and then getting into it and determination that I'm not going to fail. Failure is not an option. And then just looking at, okay, I even held, because like I said, when I first started, it was more of a branding business, because a lot of times people don't understand that branding is just basically, how people see you, how you are presenting yourself. And then, if you're presenting yourself in a negative way, but yet you want to be working at this company, or you want to be working at this, or you want somebody to invest in you, that knowledge. And so I think my first event that I held might have had 3 people in it. But I was like, okay, well then, but as I began to work with more people, I began to see, okay, so the branding, they're doing this, but they also want to start a business. Well, your business is your brand until it stands on its own. You have to understand that. And so there went more pulling in the business aspect of it. And then moving into the part of, okay, now people that are, business owners that are we wear so many different hats. We have, and we're trying to do everything all at one time, so what I need? Okay, I need someone that's going to be able to take some of these pieces off. Okay, so if I'm going to do that, that means most small and medium business owners also need someone that can help them while they're learning the foundation. They're learning the team, the who they are, who they're looking for, their ideal clients, and the messaging. They need to be able to focus. Besides trying to figure out, okay, now I need to get on social media, now I need to post. So then I pull that portion in it. So when I'm working with a client one-on-one, we take over the social media management portion of it, and we begin to organically build their presence on social media and connecting them with their ideal clients so that they can then be able to grow their business. So my launch, so just is, like I said, my launch was a trial and error all the way through until and so but each time I did that, I learned another piece that somebody else may need that I could add and be able to teach, because now I've learned it, through that fall in that pit. Oh yeah, you don't want to do that because
Yeah.
da, 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 da.
Yeah. And your story's similar to mine. First of all, I didn't have a blueprint. My mom, although I laugh because my mom is a hairstylist, and she basically had her own business. She purchased a spot in the hair salons, but at that time didn't know anything about LLCs or anything like that. I sit back now and I'm like, shoot, Ma, you could have had an LLC, right? But I filed for my LLC. Like you, I really didn't have a big launch. I just started telling people, look, this is what I'm doing. Right. But one of the things that I remember talking to a college friend, and the one thing that I knew I was not good at was selling myself, promoting myself. Right. just very shy. I've always been that behind the scenes person, right? So now I'm like, okay, this is my company.
Right.
I have to promote myself. And I remember, like I said, during the pandemic, I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, what can I do? I'm antsy. I'm talking to my 2 dogs. And I'm like, what can I do? And I was a Zoom queen, y'all. I know my friends were so tired of Zooms because during the pandemic, I think I organized every kind of Zoom games night, all kinds of stuff. But like I said, I knew I wanted at that time. I'm like, okay, how can I support people in a different way? Right. Still leveraging my life coaching skills and things like that. And I said, I think I'll start a podcast. Right. And I was talking to one of my friends, and I just so happened to see her. She was doing podcasting at the time. And I remember watching her, and I just called her up. I said, look, I need your help. I said, I'm trying to do this. And I was talking to her about my concept and all that. And she said, and she's a therapist by trade, right? Is what she does. And she said, Michelle, just do it.
That's it.
Just do it. Right. And she challenged me to go live. And y'all, I was scared to death. But I did my first live, and just promoting the fact I was about to kick off the conversation. And the first conversation, y'all, was right after the George Floyd incident.
Wow.
Murder.
Plenty to talk about.
Right.
A lot to talk about.
And think about where people were at that particular point in time and being able to talk about it. And I remember bringing folks in who had experienced a lot of different things, but that was my launch. I had my uncle who was a police officer. I had my godbrother who was a police officer. I had someone who was the cousin of Mr. Garner, who chokehold in New York City.
Oh, wow.
I had 2 therapists on. And y'all, that was a powerful conversation.
I'm sure.
Right. But I had therapists on to talk about, the trauma. How do you deal with trauma? Right. And I remember the title was Racism: Moving from Anger to Action and Healing. Right. And I literally remember crying afterwards because I was just like, oh my God, I'm doing this. Never saw myself doing a podcast. Right. And everybody's like, Michelle, you're natural. You talk about, I was like, y'all don't know. I'm praying an hour. I literally don't have any appointments like an hour before my podcast. I don't do any appointments, nothing, because I need to be centered so that I can focus. Right. But like you, I just started. And then to your point, just getting connected with different people. Right. I joined the International Coaching Federation so I could go to meetings and things like that. End up getting my master level certification. Right. From there. And then, they allowed me to post. Once you become a member and you're certified, you can post on your business on their website. And I've gotten between my personal website and just putting myself out there on different pages, I've gotten clients from all over the place. Right. So being able to put yourself out there is important, and getting testimonials too.
It's very important too. Yeah.
It's very important. Very, very important. So let's go into sort of those lessons learned, because I think this is a good segue to talk about some lessons learned. So Sandra, some of your lessons learned from starting a business.
Okay. Some of my lessons learned. One, you can't do it all by yourself. You're going to have to ask some questions. You're going to have to, you got to be truthful about your weaknesses and admit that you need help. That's a lesson learned. 2, you said something really powerful about just do it. So many people get caught up in trying to be perfect with everything and making sure everything is just perfect. But just doing it. And then being able to pivot. That was another thing. It's okay to pivot. It's okay to pivot. I had to learn that. That's not failure. That's okay, this did not work, but this will work. Okay. Let's move that to that direction.
And Sandra, can I say something? I said, with that comes being willing to try new things.
Right.
right? I think that comes with that, right?
Mm,
You won't learn until you try something new. So
exactly.
go ahead, finish
Uh,
your
uh,
statement.
then when you're asking for help, this was a big part I had to learn. Um, Everyone needs a coach at every level. And when you get a coach, you may be an expert but you still don't know what's up on this level. You're an
Yeah.
expert at this level. And it doesn't mean that you're not an expert or you don't know your stuff because you get a coach. That was a big thing that I had to really lesson learn in
Mm-hmm.
order for me to continue to grow, because I always felt as though if I said to someone that I needed a coach, then that meant that I was lacking something. So therefore,
Mm.
and so I was judging myself and then and not allowing myself to be put into places and spaces where I can get the help to get to that next level.
Mm-hmm.
So breaking down that and that took looking at people that were up higher levels than me. And then they're saying, and my coach said, and my mentor said, and I'm like, man, they got a coach, they got a
Yeah.
mentor, and they're rocking it,
Yeah.
and then just being able to go from that space and just say, okay, this is a lesson learned. Because once that big lesson was learned, then, I was able to start doing this, and that. And also just lesson learned, that you're going to need other capital.
Yes.
um and just trying to figure out how to get that capital, but at the same time, don't put yourself so much out there to where you borrowing and then you're money strapped because you're
Yeah.
trying to pay back everything. Start with something. If you can start with your own, and then bring in some people, or maybe be able to collaborate to get help in certain ways, trade services for services or whatever, to get some assistance or backup, then that's great. But yeah, knowing that at some point you're gonna need other outside income.
Yeah. And something I found that a lot of entrepreneurs have done, and it's really helped, is they kicked off their business while they were still working full time. Now, having
Another
said
thing.
that,
Right.
it's hard because I was doing coaching late at night, right? I was starting my coaching from 6:30, from 6 to 8:30 were my hours. Again, think about pandemic, so we were home anyway. So I was like, shoot, might as well be available for coaching in the evening,
Uh-huh.
right? So that's what I did. But um that way you have that steady income still
Right.
while you're
It's
getting yourself, again, it takes some work to do it.
it's a balance.
Um,
It's
but
a, it's
yeah, it was definitely a safety net for me,
Yeah,
right?
that's a
Yeah,
good thing that you said, because so many people, as soon as they start their business, they like, well, I'm going to quit my job. Okay. But you don't have anything backed up.
that's
You don't have
right.
anything set up. And then they jump into a business. It takes time. Some people are under the delusion that you launch a business today and you're a millionaire tomorrow. No, it's a steady, consistent flow of building customers, building
One step at a
trust.
time.
Right. And so in that time, like you said, it's not for the faint of heart. And so if you go quit your job, and then now you don't have anything to pay your bills, because them bills gonna keep coming.
Sure
And then
Yeah.
enough.
yeah, and then eventually to wind up closing down their business and then going back to work is because
Yeah,
now their mindset is like, I gotta do either or.
Yeah.
And it's not that you
right.
gotta do either or, you can do them both. It's just
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
management of your time while you're doing that. Look at that business as your investor while
yeah,
you're building up your job as the investor while you're building up your business.
yeah,
And then when you get, set to be able to move, then move.
yeah,
Um,
Mhm.
but just jumping out there and saying, I'm going to start a business, and then,
Yeah.
like, okay, well, where the money coming from?
yeah,
Right.
No.
yeah,
And you know
yeah,
what? That's part of the reason that I started this business, because the research that I was doing after learning that trial and error is not a business plan, and
Uh-huh.
having gone through that process myself, so that I
Mhm.
could see what this was all about, I realized, okay, 50% of small businesses fail in the first 5
Yeah.
years due to cash flow issues. And
That's right.
digging deeper, those cash flow issues are due to lack of knowledge about the business management, about the tools and resources that are available to us, like the money that you're talking about that's out there, the capital. If you don't know these things, you cannot run a successful business.
Right.
So if you get together with other people who do know these things, you might not necessarily have to go to business management school to get your degree. You just have to know people who are
Right.
willing to pour into you, who are friendly entrepreneurs, who aren't afraid. They're not afraid of competition. They're willing and able to pour into you. So the lessons that I learned, it's about money too.
Yeah.
I'm blessed to still have a full-time job. My career is still in full swing. And right now my shoulders feel like rocks because 8 hours a day, woo, and then putting that computer down and picking up that computer and keeping it going. Sometimes, I mean, even through this class I took, I was up until 1, 2 a.m. on a regular basis. And that does something to you physically, mentally, emotionally. When I finally got out of that class, I'm still working a full-time job and I'm still now operating this business. So it takes a lot out of me, like energy wise. So I have to make sure I regroup on a regular basis and take care of myself. And when I find that I'm getting, like a pressure cooker, I know why. And I just have to address those things and bring it back down.
Yeah, that
But
balance
another
is key. That balance
yeah,
is
you
key.
have to.
Yeah,
And
the
if you
balance is key.
don't balance, you're gonna tip over the edge, and everybody's gonna just see you lose it. And I'm not trying to be one of those.
Yeah.
But another lesson was spending money too quickly. Like I did have that money set aside, but spending it on employees made that money go like that.
Right.
I was
Yeah.
learning in the process and things were happening, but too slowly. So if I could go back and do it again, I can't
Yeah.
say the money was wasted because it was part of the journey God had me on to show me what he wanted me to do. So I can't say I would change how I did it, but if I'm advising anyone else, which is what he's given me the knowledge to do now, to say, listen, friendpreneur, don't hire anybody just yet. Yeah,
Right.
you will be wearing all the hats for a while. And it might be 50 hats. And you might be up late, but you can pace yourself. You don't have to do everything at once. I have a running to-do list that I reprioritize, move things up and down and around, add to on a regular basis because you can't do it all at once. And while I am a solopreneur in the situation that I'm in, until that cash flow is steady enough for me to feel comfortable saying, okay, now I can hire somebody to give me some help and take one piece off, then I'm going to operate within my energy budget. I set aside this amount of energy for this business. And when I find that I'm pulling energy from other places to pour into this, I have to reground myself because I'm only one person. I am one person.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sandra, and then I'll add to that.
I think you said a really powerful thing too, Tiffany, when you said that, when you feel yourself going up here, then you bring yourself down. That comes into really sitting and being intentional about your time. I tell my clients, you have 24 hours in a day. This part here, if they're working someplace else and there's 8 or 9 hours, that's gone to them. Then you got to look at sleep. You got to put sleep aside. And then there needs to be some time set aside for mental rebuilding, and so that needs to be put in there. So everything needs to be, time is very important. You can't get time back.
No.
You can get money back, but you can't get time back. So you have to really be intentional about setting goals. This is the time I'm going to do for this. This is the time I'm going to do for this. This is the time I'm going to do for that. And this is the time I'm going to do for that. And sticking with that. And just because something may come up, the first thing that should not go is your peace time, because if you fall apart, then your business falls apart. But just saying, okay, and just having that schedule, you may need to do, like you said, move something up or move something down, but at least you have a plan in place and what times are meant for time. So it's when you're doing a business and you're doing it's everything needs to be programmed. And like I tell my family, my friends, look, y'all got to let me know, because my dad, things are programmed. I'm setting things in place and on calendars from here to there so that I know, what's going where. So there's not it's not operating on I just feel like doing this, I'm going to do this. No, every thing is, when you're an entrepreneur, everything is structured, and
Yes,
that's
you're
what you
building.
have to be structured in order to build a successful business.
Mhm.
You don't have any structure, you're not going to be able to build, because you're here, you're there,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
right everywhere, and then you fail because you just right.
Yeah, that dedicated time, it was something I learned,
Mhm.
and quite frankly, I talk about when I'm meeting with clients, right?
Uh-huh.
That goal setting
Right.
and setting that dedicated time. And for me, Saturday mornings was my time to kind of, okay, Michelle, what do you need to do with your business next week?
Mhm.
Right. But setting that time aside to do that, I will say something that I learned. And when I tell people this, they laugh at me, but I was like, something silly. Because again, I was just like, I'm gonna start a business. I started my business, the LLC, in December. Guess what?
Yeah.
That was a whole tax year for that year, where I
Yes.
did nothing for my business that year, but IRS saw it as a working tax year,
Mhm.
right? So when you're starting a business, if you're going to do it later in the year, you might want to start it in January, right? That way you have a full year of activity, and IRS is not claiming that as a year of work when you started in December. So that's one of the biggest lessons I learned, because I was like, shoot, I just lost a whole year. But the other thing that I've done is I found some confidants who I can sit and talk to about some of the things that I was thinking about doing. And I call them my trusted advisors. And I would have them, look at the topics I wanted to talk about, especially for real conversations. For my business, I was okay. But talk about, here's some of the topics I want to talk about. What do I need to do? What I need to do. I even had them reading my questions and provided, but that gave me some added support to make sure I was going in the right direction. And even now I know, again, I have my trusted advisors that I can go to say, this is what I'm thinking. What do y'all think? Is there something else I should be thinking about? So being able to have that support network, and it doesn't necessarily have to be someone who knows exactly what you're doing and understands your business, but to have those confidants that you can release
Yeah.
and talk to, right?
Can I speak to that for a minute?
Yeah, go
Because
ahead, Tiffany. Go ahead.
touching on something. It's about meaningful connections. And one of
Yes.
the things that I've learned in this 2 years is networking. That's a good thing, but
Yes.
relationship building is on the next level.
Yes.
So you can set your mind on relationship building, because those meaningful connections you make turn into, the trusted advisors,
Yeah.
that circle of people who may not know exactly everything about your business, but have your best interest at heart.
Absolutely.
So they
Absolutely.
care if you succeed. They don't want you to fail. So they're going to pour into you because they want you to succeed. No one who
Absolutely.
you just connect with for 5 minutes at a networking event in a room full of 200 people is as important as that one meaningful connection that you make that turns into a relationship that continues to feed you as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. So that's the kind of
Absolutely.
circle that I'm putting around myself. And it's small,
It needs to
you
be.
can't trust
I was
everybody.
going to
So I
say,
can't call
absolutely.
everybody a entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it needs to
Absolutely.
be. But that's good. It's like-minded. Make sure you putting yourself around like-minded people, and people that are going to encourage you versus project their fears upon you,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
their doubts about, because they've not done it. I know I have those that are not entrepreneurs that I can talk to about certain things, but when it comes to entrepreneurship, there's a certain different group
Yeah.
of individuals that I talk to about, those particular things about dealing with the business, because the mindset can be totally different as well. Just like you said, the overwhelm, or, what, does this topic really, sound, sound judgment,
Mm-hmm.
and also can be maybe able to see, okay, well, that's a good idea, but did you think about this as well?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then be able to say, yo, yeah, I didn't think about that. That's a great idea. But yeah, just the like-minded individuals, definitely small circle for those individuals, those
Yeah.
trust that you'll be able to share, that you don't need an NDA for.
Right.
You tell
Right.
them the information, and then just listening, because
Mhm.
sometimes we'll hear and may not take that advice, but also be willing to say, well, that's good, but that's not kind of what I was really feeling in here. And then
Mhm.
kind of discussing those as well, because um, making a quick move or a shift to something different, which is something that happened to me when I got a particular coach. And because of the name of my business, they steered me one way, wanted to try to steer me one way that was not the meaning of my business. So they took the meaning of my business and tried to make it literal and say, oh, this is who you need to work with. Da, 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 da. But the name of my business is the journey that I took. I was a military. I was in Bootz. Now I'm working in the corporate in the business arena. I'm in Heelz. So that's that thing. But you got to be able to tell someone, okay, I you might not have the vision I have, Steve, and then be able to discuss that. That being bold enough to be able to say that and not just
Protect your vision.
Right, protect your vision, because when I was new, I didn't really know that.
Right.
And so I'm thinking this person, so I'm doing da 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 da, because what happens is if you go and you start following in that direction, now you got people thinking you're this direction. It takes a lot to refocus people back to what it is that you want.
Yeah.
And and so your mission, your vision gets lost until you can
Yes.
get it back focused, because people's minds and they remember the last thing they see you at, and that's it. And then
Mhm.
they
Mhm.
associate
Yeah.
you with it, and they put you in that box. So
Mm.
then it's like, okay, no. And so now your whole messaging is changing. But I do tell
Yes.
people, if they're in a situation like that, don't stop for 2 or 3 months
Right.
and then start back. No, just gradually start changing your messaging,
Yes.
gradually
Yes.
start showing up in
Yes.
the way you're supposed to, and eventually everything will go the way it is. But if you just drop out of existence, then now you
Right.
lose the followers that you do have.
Yeah.
Just kind of, help people to understand. But yeah, definitely be careful with your vision, protect your vision.
Yeah.
And then just because a person says, okay, you feel that they're this expert on this,
Yeah.
just make sure that they understand what all your vision entails.
Yeah.
That's all.
You know
And,
what?
and
That
Sandra,
was
listen,
hard.
yeah, the lesson in that to me then is you might have to sharpen your vision, right? Because if that
True.
person heard it that way,
Right.
sometimes for me, I know I had to come back and say, okay, maybe I need to sharpen what I'm saying because maybe it's
Yeah.
not resonating in the right
Yeah.
way. But staying true to yourself is absolutely
Yeah.
something
So
you need to
important.
do, right?
Right.
Staying true to
Yeah.
what it is that you want to do. And I would also say, there are a lot of people who are doing different things. And it could be so easy to feel like you have to do something the way somebody else did it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You got
It
to
was
be
hard for
authentic. It
me.
has to be authentic to yourself, right? It has to be
Okay.
authentic to who you are
Yeah.
and how
You
you want
guys
to
remember?
operate. Go ahead, Tiffany.
Remember, I was talking about how going through that launch Nightdale program was so intense.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's very much related to what you said, Sandra, because I had the vision. I just couldn't articulate it. I saw it, right? And the bits and pieces were like spaghetti in my head floating around. And that program helped me over 10 weeks pull those spaghetti pieces apart and align them. But it took pitch practice after iteration after iteration, after draft for me to stand up in front of my class, my peers, my teacher, and say, this is what I'm trying to sell. And for them to say, but what did you do? And then I go
Right.
back and do it again based on what I'm feeling like they're not understanding. And then I do it again and they say, but I still don't understand this. So that whole process was painful. But in the end, when I could finally stand on that pitch competition stage and say, this is what I do, and say it from a place of confidence because it was drawn out of me, it was in there, but I couldn't pull it out of myself. That process was so important for me to go through so I could articulate my vision.
Right.
And now when I explain it, people are like, I get that. And the ones that get it, they get behind it. The ones that don't get it, they're not my people. And I can accept that. What I love about connections like this right here is I pull something from every interaction. And what you said earlier, Michelle, about your HR experience being who you are, all of that experience you can pour into your business, right? And it gives you, those are your credentials. I'm taking from this conversation, I'm going to go find some credential. I already have my credentials, but the certifications and the validation of those credentials that I can go and seek out, like a certification, that's what I want to do next, because I, even in addition to the experience I have as a technologist, I want to be able to continue that education and let people know behind this friendpreneurship, behind this friendpreneur that you're looking at, is this qualification, are these credentials. And I feel like it's so important to do that, because people need to be able to trust you. They don't have to buy what you're doing, but why am I doing it? Because over all these years in these support roles that I've had, I've been a hunter-gatherer, and it required me to follow up and follow through. Every time I needed something from somebody to help them look better, I was the nail behind the portrait. I needed them to respond to me. I needed them to give me what I was asking so that I could do what they needed. And I learned and I mastered the art of follow up and follow through. And that's a big part of friendpreneurship. People make commitments when they say they're your friendpreneur. If they're going to support you, they've committed their time, their money, their energy, their expertise, their resources. They're committing that. And you have to follow through on your word when you are committed. So I'm bringing that follow up and follow through expertise into friendpreneurship, so people know they can trust me to put them in touch with people who they can trust.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
really a part of, how do you set yourself apart, right? Because you can go after a lot of different credentials. This is like going to school. You get a lot of degrees, but it's like, how do you set yourself apart from other people, right? And credential is one way, right? It is definitely one way. Is it the only way? No. But it is one way, right? Go ahead, Sandra, and I'm gonna move to the next question.
So you guys were right on that, but I also, as far as, you got to make sure your vision and everything is clear. But I think also you have to be careful of, because there's different people out there that somebody don't put their vision of what they see you doing on you. And that's what happened with that situation. They said, oh, you're a veteran. Oh, your business is this. Oh, this is who you should serve. And oh, this is how, by the way, we're going to go through it. And I'm like,
that's not what you wanted to do.
Right.
Yeah. You're taking it down another path.
Absolutely.
Sandra, on your thing of looking for credentials and things of that nature, look at Queen City Women in Business. It's a community that's been set up now. I can send you a link, but basically it's a community where it helps you to get your credentials and then connect you with other organizations and corporations that could help you, if you want to work for the state or you want to work as a contractor for state business. So, and then it's got all of those things down to it, but go ahead.
And let me tell you, this is one of the things I like about Real Conversations, y'all, which again, when I set this up, it wasn't part of what I thought was going to happen, but through this podcast, I have been able to connect people with each other who have things that they can share. So there's been so many connections that have been happening even after the podcast through Real Conversations. So that was something, again, I never even thought about. But Sandra, can you talk about, because there's all types of businesses that you can set up, LLC, S Corp. Can you just talk a little bit, high level, about the differences in those?
Sure.
So,
Okay. So when you're looking at starting up a business, you really have to understand what structure you want to get into, and how prepared you are, how to get into those. So like with a C Corp and an S Corp, you're looking at getting board of directors. You're looking at a really structured environment. Then you're talking about having meetings with with both of the S Corp and the C Corp, there's meetings, there's board directors, there's shareholders. So there are people that have invested their money, and you have to hold these meetings. So it's really putting on a whole lot of it's really a structured environment. So it's a whole lot of takes time to set up, and you need legal guidance in it as you're moving through it to make sure. Now, as far as with a C Corp, it's not beneficial. It's tax wise, you don't get any deference on it. So in other words, you get taxed twice. You get taxed as the C corporation, and then you have to pay personal taxes as well. So you got to look at that as another structure thing. What is it I'm looking to have happen for me? Now with the S Corp is a little different in that aspect of taxes because it floats more like an LLC. So you don't have to do a separate tax for an S corporation. And then it can help balance out your personal taxes on that end. It's the same as with an LLC. Now, an LLC is a much easier structure, which is why you see so many people doing it, because you don't need a board of directors. You could just have you being in that position.
Right.
You get tax. You can take that business and use it for tax in your taxes, and can lower your taxes down. You may get money, get breaks and things on as far as the LLC. And it's a lot more flexibility. With any of these that I've mentioned, you can do what they call shareholds. Like I was saying, if you want to get money, maybe borrow money from somebody instead of going to try to get grants and things of that nature. You can give parts of shares of your business, but then you have to be careful of when you do that you don't give out all, and not have any more control over your business, because now you've given out too many shares of that. So that's another thing that you can do as a business owner, having an LLC, an S Corp, and a C corporation. The structure for that. But looking at any of those, if you're starting out as a small business owner and you just want to be able to be seen as a separate as a corporation, so that protects you somewhat from people being able to sue you and take your private property, because now you are in court, you have an LLC, so that protects you. So that's a main reason why people need to get either one of these, is to protect your personal home, your things, and people can't just come at you for that. They got to go at the LLC. But until you have really grown to a point to where you are either having more companies and businesses underneath that umbrella of that one name that you have, or, and you want to start expanding and you're looking at your business as something that you might want to sell, or if you're looking at your business as, now I want to get investors or angel, what do they call them? Angel investors to come in. At that point, you need to look at getting an S corporation or a C corporation, because they want to see, one, that you're structured. Two, they want to be able to see that you have boards and meetings and be able to know that their money is going to be taken care of. But then they also want to get more into business plans and where your money is going to be going. And they want to then at that point know that you don't have all your money coming out from one source. Because at that point, if you just have all your money coming from one source, then they see that as a weakness. Because if you may have one or two clients, major clients, and that's it, or you just have that, they see that as a loss of money. So now if but far as for grants and maybe loans from the federal government, stuff like that, an LLC is just fine. But when you start stepping more into trying to get investors and investors to put money in, then that's where you're going to really have to get more of a structure, setting structure. And then you have what they call the nonprofit. And then the nonprofit is, like it says, a nonprofit. And when you 501c, 503c, I think it is. But if you do that, then that's something you really need to have legal guidance for, because it's very, you walk in a thin line between when you're getting that money, because most of the time is raising funds and things of that nature, you don't use it the wrong way. So this is when you need to have legal representation, somebody that you can constantly go to and say, am I operating the right way? And then this also has boards that will help you to make decisions and things of what they're moving through. And then you also have a cost attached to a profit that you have to write in, or what your mission and vision is, and that's dealing with that cause, and why. And because that's going to help people to actually buy into that.
Yeah. Thank you, Sandra. And the other thing, and I've been on different groups, and one thing I've heard people ask is, who do I need to help me pull my LLC paperwork? And I tell people all the time, the LLC paperwork you could do on you don't have to pay anyone to pull together your LLC. And I think people just need to understand that. A lot of times they're going to these places and these places are charging a lot of money for you to do your paper. To your point, LLC is probably the easiest thing to start up. So
You
yeah.
just got to make sure when you're doing your paperwork that you put in all your titles. So
Yeah.
if you want to go, if you're going to consider yourself a CEO, that needs to be in that paperwork of that
Yeah.
LLC.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're going and you're filing for loans and things of that nature, especially with the federal government, and you put down that you're a CEO, and then you send that paperwork to them, and they're like, well, that's not in there. So where did that come from, or who
Right.
put that in there? And then
Yeah.
so that's almost like stepping on the lines of fraud at that point.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do that, even if you do it with a legal person, because sometimes you can go to like LegalZoom and they charge like $100 and some if you're not certain about it. You still got to be able to communicate what it is that you want to know, and then whoever's going to be part of that business, make sure that they're in that paperwork under those articles, because they go by that very, very strictly.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Now I want to give you guys an opportunity to talk about what you have coming up. So I want to thank you for sharing your information. I think we got into a lot of different things through this conversation. So Tiffany, take yourself off mute and talk about friendpreneurship.
Friendpreneurship. Yeah.
Friendpreneurship. What do you have coming up that people can take advantage of?
Okay, I shall. So I am planning a friendpreneurship conference. My monthly forums have been going on since June. Okay. And
so talk about your forums.
Okay, let's talk about the forums. There is a particular format for each monthly forum. And first, I'll talk about the friendpreneurs. There are 3 types, right? We have the subject matter experts that I call friendpreneur fellows. These are the ones who have been in business a while. They are making money. They know what they're doing. They are even not just people, but incubators, entrepreneurial training institutions like Wake Tech and like the Launch Raleigh program. These are the experts. They have something to pour back, right? Then we have friendpreneur colleagues. They've been in business. They are registered businesses and they have been in business a while, but they need exposure. And these are the ones I love to interview about their why, give them a platform to talk about their why so people will buy. And then the third group of friendpreneurs is peers. These are those who are talented and they're exploring entrepreneurship. They're thinking about going in business. They may be doing business, but not registered. And they need to be in the room with people who have been there, done that, who have already learned that you don't have to pay somebody to file your LLC paperwork. I made the mistake of paying somebody to get my EIN and realized later that I didn't have to. So I was able to tell my mentee, no, ma'am, don't do that. Go to this website. And when you're looking on the websites, make sure you start with the .gov and not the first thing that pops up. Things like that you learn.
Yeah.
So these are the people that need to be in the rooms together. And these are the monthly forums that I have to bring these people together under themed events. So one event may be about communications, one may be about finance, one may be about web development. It's just to bring people in that industry at different phases of their career or their journey into the same room to learn from each other. And there's always a subject matter expert sharing something that every entrepreneur needs to know, like taxes or legal or finance. They're presenting first, and then we have an interview, and then we have speed networking. So each forum has those 3 components. So I'm just scaling up to a conference.
Yeah. And right now you're doing those forums live. I know you and I talked about some other
Sometimes I
things
will.
you're trying to
Yes, right
you're trying to
now.
do it so other people can get involved, right?
Yes, I want people in the room to feel the
Mhm.
energy and the spirit of friendpreneurship, because we have been online for a few years now because we had to be, but now we don't necessarily have to be. And bringing the humanity back into business, I think, is so important for those meaningful connections to be made, so that we can continue to build upon those relationships and go forward. But this quarterly conference that I'm doing is as a result of sharing my story with someone who's at a way bigger stage in his journey than me. Sharing, he gave me his ear for 10 minutes. And it turned out that within 3 days, we had plans for my conference to be at his venue, just because he believed in what I was doing and wanted to be a friendpreneur. So that space that he's offering me is giving me a chance to bring more people together and scale up my business so that I can elevate and move to the next level. I couldn't do that without someone who cared enough about small business and look back to pour into someone who was at a different stage. And that is the spirit of friendpreneurship. So this conference, Preston Williams Jr. of Seven Springs Vineyards and Farms in North Carolina, they're going to be his team. They're going to be my subject matter experts, sharing about their experience in 45 years of business, running this beautiful
Phenomenal.
150-acre farm. Yeah. During the
Mhm.
pandemic, they launched a business, having people come out and do music. They have every weekend, it seems, there's a music festival out there, but people
Yeah.
needed to be outside. It was genius. Have concerts. And
Right.
yeah, he sells wine, but now he's got another stream of income with events. So he's a smart man, and he's got his
Yeah.
family running that business. This is genius. So
Yeah.
I get to be a part of that experience and bring others along for success. So I get to bring the vendors, and I get to bring the subject matter experts into the room to share during speed networking. Now I just need to fill the room with people who want to learn, who want to share, who want to be inspired and grow. So that over the next 2 weeks, I'm promoting this conference, and people just need to get on that event right and buy those tickets and come.
Yeah.
So we can
That's
keep
gonna
moving.
come. That's gonna take care.
Yeah. And Tiffany, your live events are in North Carolina. Tiffany's in North
Yes,
Carolina,
I am.
y'all. Actually, all of us in North Carolina.
Yes.
I know you thought about expanding, because this friendpreneurship can expand beyond just locally.
Well, my vision is global.
Yeah.
It
So
is
we working
big.
on that. We're praying.
I'm in the
We're
beginning
working on that.
stage, but it's global.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sandra, why don't you talk about what you have coming up?
Okay. I did want to say before I start that if you're an LLC and you register with a state, be sure to check to see whether or not that state has fees. Because once a year, like North Carolina, you have to pay your fees. And if you don't, they can take away that LLC registration. So that's something very important. So a lot of times when people get these LLCs, they don't realize there's some other stuff that needs to go with it.
Annual.
So yes, some annual fees. But what I have going on is I just launched it's actually going to launch tomorrow, is my think tank membership, which is a group business coaching, and it's for small and medium business owners who, maybe not at that point to where they can pay for a one-on-one coaching. But they're really trying to build the foundation of their business. So they're not quite sure about, how to locate their target market, how to create their messaging, different things of that nature. I'm going to be coaching on that. So it'll be on Thursdays at 7 p.m. And so they'll register for it. And it just be a monthly, each month there'll be a different thing and be put out. And then they'll also have 2 30-minute one-on-one consultations with me at the beginning of the month and at the end of the month. And that more we can take what they've learned and put it towards what their business, and then really be helping them to figure out how this works with my business. It's kind of like listening to the word, the word says this, but okay, now how can I put that to my life and make it work and function? So that's what the think tank membership group business coaching is. Also, I'm a executive producer and host of my own TV show, The Leaders Empowerment Corner. And that's on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. And what I do is I interview leaders in the community. So they could be corporate leaders, community leaders, business leaders, political leaders, military leaders, and just talk to them really about leadership and, how, what made them decide that they wanted to step into that role of leadership, how they, what's the advice that they can give to others that are looking to step into that role of leadership, and just talking about how you approach leadership, because there's so many different ways, and unfortunately some do it right and some do it wrong, but what makes it right and what makes it wrong, and then really just diving deep into that with the hopes that those that are out there that are maybe a little scared, that don't want to step into leadership, but they have a purpose, that they will go ahead and do that. And then just helping people to also be able to see what's a good leader, what
Yeah.
makes a good leader, and the characteristics of that. So I just finished my conference, my Love Me Some Her conference. It was done on Sunday, but it'll be coming back in October of 2024. So be looking for that as well, because it's going to be launching in, soon. Y'all have to save the date coming out.
Thank you, Sandra. And I started this workshop, call it a vision board party / workshop, because I go beyond just doing the vision board, but I'm going to do this December 9th, and I'll put out a flyer about it. It's going to be virtual, and I'll share that information. But for those of you who want to get a jump start on just thinking about what it is that you want to accomplish for next year, I'll provide a model for you to just start planning for that. So again, it's I call it a Beyond a Vision Board workshop. So again, it'll be an opportunity for us to mix, mingle, have some fun, but also start putting some things to paper so you can start planning for 2024. All right. So you guys look out for that. Go ahead, Sandra.
One more thing. Following off of what Tiffany said, if there is somebody out there as a business owner, a woman-owned business owner, and she's looking to either want to go to work with the corporations as a contractor, or she wants to work with the federal government or the state or local, the Queen City Women in Business is a community that will help train you. Also, there are organizations that are partnered with us that will go ahead and help you, guide you with getting those certifications for free. You don't have to pay for them. And then you get free coaching along the side of that, being able to do that. And then once you're set up and ready to go, there are organizations that are partnered with us that said, I'm going to give your people a chance to work with us based off of what we need. So definitely Queen City Women's in Business. And I'll send you the link that you can attach.
Good. I'll do a posting sharing your flyers as well as any other information that you have. So we'll do that. Ladies, thank you so much. I'm gonna put you in the green room so I can sign off. So just to give me a couple of minutes, but thank you to these wonderful women who I had. And y'all, I have just a great circle of people that I'm connected with. And when I thought about this topic, I thought about these two individuals doing different things to help entrepreneurs. But one of the things that I found, it is so important to have a community of individuals that you can go to be your support. And they have definitely done that for me today. So thank you to them. I will post their information. Coming up next, I'm going to have part 3, episode 3 of my career series. And it's about networking, mentoring, and sponsorship. So if you're someone who has not been good at networking, and even trying to figure out how to get a mentor and the importance of sponsorship, you definitely want to join this episode. And I would say it's probably targeted more to those who are early in their career working for a corporation, but you can leverage some of the information that we share in any situation. Okay, so that's coming up next month. That said, y'all, I'm gonna sign off. Thank you for joining. Look out for the posts with additional information, and we'll see you Real Conversations with Michelle next month. Take care.
Bye.